So the very first part of this semester really had to do with definitions. And remember we talked about different kinds of variables. We had like discrete and continuous variables. That's going to be on there. Discrete slash continuous variable. And then we had like, and if you want to write this down, that's fine. But it was like ordinal, interval. That was another different kinds of variables as well. We had quantitative and qualitative. All of it was like definitions. It was really about definitions. If you go back again, look at your test. That very first test mentioned that kind of stuff. You're going to need to know the empirical rule. Remember, the empirical rule was like, hey, if we've got a bell-curved or a bell-shaped distribution, it gave an estimate, like within one standard deviation, there's 68% of the data. Within two standard deviations, it's 95% of the data. That was the empirical rule. That's going to pop up on the test. And then finding basic probabilities. And I'll tell you, in one of the tests, I think they rolled like a 12-sided die, something like that, but basic probability. If we have an experiment, find the probability from the experiment, basic probability. If we had a deck of cards, what's the probability of flipping over a heart, right? Well, there's 13 hearts out of 52, so it's 1/4, right? So definitely look back at those questions. Oh, that's weird. Hold on. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just trying to get this. Oh, confidence intervals. Know how to find confidence intervals. I forget which, I think it was test 2. Went over, it began the confidence interval question, but all of that's in the calculator. That's weird. The types of sampling. I think this one's kind of out of order when I'm looking at the test, but types of sampling. And understand which one. Remember, we had like cluster sampling, simple random sample, stratified sampling, sample of convenience. Understand the differences in those. That was on, gosh, I think that was test 2. I can't remember now off the top of my head. And then the different types of biasness. That was on there. And then, using your calculator, and I think on one of the tests, I gave you like one data set and I asked you to find all the different things from a data set. So I'm going to say given a data set, put it in the calculator and then be able to find, the mean, median. You can put mode on there. That one's not hard. You can kind of see it and see the mode. This sample or population standard deviation. And then let me make sure I got all of them. Mean, population, yeah. Yeah, the variance too. And know how that relates. So the variance. And then the 5-number summary, it came from that as well. The 5-number summary. Yeah, it was the quartiles. So you had the min, max, and then quartile 1, 2, and 3. Okay, that was the 5-number summary.
Oh, the one that I had a hard time with.
Yeah. So that was the 5-number summary. It dealt really with making box plots, but in this, if it was a regular test, I'd have you make box plots and do all that fun stuff. But with it being testing through Blackboard, I couldn't do that fun stuff. You guys kind of missed out on that. I'll say 5-number summary / interquartile range. That was all in the same section. All in the same section. I think that's kind of a review of the first 2 tests. I think that was kind of everything on there from the first 2 tests, because I think after this it switches to the last 2 tests, which starts with, remember when I gave you like a table and then I asked you to find the probability from like a table, like if, I think the question on the test had to do with like STEM and non-STEM majors, and then it was male or female, their gender. So I'm going to put that on there. So given a table, find the probability. And if you go back and look at the test, you'll see what I'm talking about. Find the probability and the conditional probability. And that was like, given a STEM major, what's the probability you're male? That was the conditional part in that one. Oh, know how to find, just know how to find the conditional probability. It was, you'll look that up. You'll be able to find it. It was a simple equation. And I remember I really emphasize in that test because it's part of it. Oh, and then it was the counting. So understand how to find a permutation or combination, right? Permutation or combination. If we have, I think the question on the test was like, if a band can play 12 songs, but then a gig only calls for them to play 4, how many different set lists can the band have? And the order mattered. So if the order mattered, it was a permutation. If the order didn't matter, it was a combination. But go back and look at that. That's definitely on the test. And then we got to distributions. Yeah. Find find the probability and mean from a discrete distribution. If you go back and look at your test, you'll see that the question had to do with defective circuits. And, it had like 0 defective circuits, 1 defective circuits, or 2 defective circuits. That was a discrete distribution, which was one of the very first questions, talking about discrete and continuous variables, because there can only be none, 1, or 2. And then you had to find the mean and a probability based on that. And then expected value from a gain. I think that the book had to do with like flipping a card over. Expected value. I'll even say given a card game. Given a card game. And then we got more into the more recent stuff. So, we're looking at area under the curve. I will say finding and interpreting z-scores. So 2, yeah. And then, finding probabilities of z distributions. I'll say, yeah, z distribution. That's like if I gave you the mean and I give you the sample size and I give you the population standard deviation, What's the probability something's greater than a number or less than a number, right? That was the stuff we did, towards the end, really more test 4 stuff. Yeah. Same thing, confidence intervals. Yeah, I'm going to put just confidence intervals because there's a lot of different ways on that last test that I asked you about confidence intervals. The last 2 tests, I should say. So I'm going to leave it kind of vague like that. So confidence intervals, where you have to find them from the calculator, right? You have to use the right distribution, the right, kind of have to press the right buttons, right? But you'll find them from the calculator. I know that's like a lot. But if you go back and look at those tests, you'll see what I'm talking about in some of these. And it's not that bad. In a way, it's only 4 tests, right? So that's kind of nice. But that's really what I would look at and know. And you'll be fine if you get it. And I'll tell you, you'll be fine from studying the previous tests. If you study those previous tests, you will be fine. And what's nice is that, the answers are in there. So figure out how you got the answer and you'll be good to go. Okay.